Hello again. I think that the angle is quite sweet. You go right behind the bolting salad. So I hope that the focus is not going to go on and off. Thank you so much for all of you lovely comments on my previous videos. This is, I believe, the 4th episode for this new channel, and today I wanted to sit a little bit here in the garden this evening and kind of let you know what has happened this week in the garden and the orchard, what we've been up to. So I thought for tonight, the plan for tonight was to actually sit in here and harvest the garlic with you. But like 2 hours ago, as I was doing some work, my husband came upstairs and told me that he harvested all the garlic. So you won't see actual footage of me putting it out, but I have all of the garlic right behind me and it is quite glorious. Luckily for me, I planted some extra in the greenhouse that he totally seemed to have forgotten about, so I might be able to put it out later tonight. We shall see. This is our first time growing a hardneck garlic. In the past, we've only done softneck from garlic seeds that we bought in the garden center. But this garlic has a very special story, and I promise you that not all of my veggies will have a romantic story to tell you. But this one is quite special because the seeds from this garlic, the cloves, were actually sent from Edgar's grandmother's garden. She still grows her own food, and that's the garlic that she grows. So we received some of the garlic in a package at the end of last year, and we planted it, and we're gonna hopefully try to preserve this tradition of growing Edgar's, so my husband's grandmother's garlic every year. So the one that we have harvested right now is gonna be for our own consumption, and the other garlic is hopefully gonna store well enough for using as seeds next year. It's our first time once again growing hardneck garlic, so I know that they tend to keep way less than the softneck ones. So I'm not sure if we're gonna manage to keep them for that long. But I'm gonna show you more closely how they look. But the bulbs are quite massive, and when I squeeze it, I can feel that the cloves inside are really hard and sturdy. So it is very exciting. In the past, since I've done softneck, I used to dry them for a while, until all the green parts turns brownish yellow, and then I braided them. But with the hardneck garlic, you can't really do that because the stem is very sturdy. So I've done a little bit of research before, and I'm supposed to dry it completely, so the same way that I did in the past, and then chop, pretty much cut this part off, and just keep that, and then I can kind of try to braid it a little bit, like how people, I like to see that in Santa Fe. I've never been to Santa Fe, but I like to virtually walk in Santa Fe. And I've seen from footage that people tend to dry chilies and outside. So you can do that with the hardneck garlic. So that's what I'm going to do if it doesn't rot away before it's time to actually preserve it or put it to dry. I thought that I would be okay with the filming location, but the sun is still quite high in the sky. Today is the day after the summer solstice, so the sun is still out for a really long time. So some of the garlic They're huge, and we don't know the variety, sadly, but I'm I'm so excited. So excited about this. So I was talking before I had to move spots. I was talking about the drying situation. I don't want to use a fan. I don't want to use things most of the time that require extra electricity. We have the garage that is always open, and I have, like, my little corner where I do all of my like preparations and preservations. This sweet little corner is right next to the door, so if I keep the door open, then it's pretty much as if I'm outside. There's pretty much constant airflow inside because the garage is not insulated, so there's always air going in and out, and in the summer we keep this door open. So I could potentially like attach the garlic, like hang them like this from one of the main beams that we have, but we spend quite a bit of time in there walking back and forth with the barrels of water and such. So I think it would be better for me to have them in one corner instead. So luckily for me, I am an avid thrifter. I absolutely love getting things secondhand. Pretty much everything in my house is secondhand. I do go to like antique stores that are probably not your antique store. It's not like a fancy place with antiquities. It's just stores with old stuff that is not necessarily precious, but that has value in some people's eyes. So I have like a lot of those like zinc bassines, or like, yeah, just bassines. Is that how it's called? Are repurposed. I got them secondhand, and we just drilled some holes inside, and it adds like beautiful like texture, and kind of changes the color palette a little bit in the garden. So we have quite a few of these pots scattered around. But one of my most recent thrifts, and you've probably seen that in previous videos, I thought about that when I exited the kitchen earlier, is to use one of the wooden ladders that I acquired quite recently for €5. I have two of them, and one is quite tall, so I was like, perhaps I could use it in the garage as like a drying rack for the garlic until it dries out completely, and then I can actually cut the stems off and just like dry it like that. So I'm probably gonna do that in the next coming days, I think. I've read that I'm supposed to like keep it drying like this a little bit, so I might leave it here until tomorrow and then start hanging them up in the garage. But something else that have happened this week, if you remember from previous footage, the bed right behind me was full of potatoes, and we have harvested all of these beautiful new potatoes. I don't remember when we sowed those potatoes. I would say like a month and a half ago, maybe, or 2 months ago. We did a rotation, so we have potatoes that are not quite ready. We have a previous crop that we've already harvested, and we wanted to make some space in this bed. There's quite a few things that I'm gonna have to harvest tonight, so it's kind of like the main big harvest, if you will, right around midsummer that we're doing these days. So we harvested those potatoes. In total, we got 6 kilograms for complete passive work because we haven't done anything to them, so that was great. Look at these ones. Oh, wow. Oi, oi, oi. The only issue is that we realized that some blight started to appear on the leaves. And a couple of days later, when we were in the greenhouse, we realized that some blight appeared on one tomato plant. So Edgar went ahead and trimmed the whole bottom parts of all of the tomato plants, so nothing, the plants would not touch each other. And we're hoping that nothing is going to spread, because we are not treating it with anything at all. No nothing. We're using GMO-free tomato plants, so they're not prone to being resistant to blight. And yeah, usually we tend to get it like late in the season. Right now it's very, very early because tomatoes are still green. We haven't started harvesting anything yet. Last year, luckily, we had like an insane tomato year, and we had our first tomatoes in mid-July, and we were able to harvest them through November. And when they were still green, we picked everything, wrapped them in brown paper bags, and a lot of them eventually turned red, even though the flavor was not close to what we got to experience in the summer. But it was still a lot of food that we managed to consume from time that we spent in the garden. So that was still satisfying, even though the flavor was not quite there. So yeah, we are praying to the God of tomato that blight will not destroy our whole harvest in the greenhouse, because we do have tomatoes in the ground. We do have some in the pots. I put some in the orchard today, and I told Edgar that perhaps we should go to a garden center and see if there's anything that we could get just in case. But all the tomatoes, we did 2 garden centers today, and all of the tomatoes did have blights in the garden center, in the nursery, so we did not get anything. The only ones that didn't have blight were the F1 varieties, so those are genetically modified, and we do not plant that. So we came back empty-handed in the tomato department, but I managed to get a few spaghetti squash seedlings. What else did I get? Some cantaloupe melons and extra zucchinis. So I'm gonna plant some of the zucchinis in the bed right, not this one, but the one over there, north-facing bed, south-facing bed, sorry. With the other zucchinis, because we're gonna have quite a bit of space. And then most of the things that I got today, and I'm gonna show you that in a second, are gonna go on the other side in the orchard. I'm gonna do the planting tomorrow, I think, because the orchard is not quite ready to receive new seedlings. I need to prepare the ground. There's still a lot of grass growing there, so I need to dig out areas in order to start planting things. So I'm probably gonna do that tomorrow during my break time. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and harvest the garlic that Edgar forgot in the greenhouse. I have to pull out some of the broad beans, actually, to make space for other things, and harvest all of the sweet peas that are slowly dying back right next to me.
I'm gonna take this or not. You can put that as a mulch somewhere after.
And now for some bean ASMR. this is how much I have harvested today. We have a little artichokes in here. And that's all of the broad beans. I got my little scale in here, so I'm gonna be able to weigh how much we got actually. But I was never like really into broad beans because I feel like they take so long to grow, and in the end they just create so much biomass in comparison to how much you are actually consuming. So I'm not gonna weight the biomass because there's just no point. It might not be like super heavy, but it's taking a lot of space, which is great for the compost or for like using as a mulch on other crops. But in terms of like food, this is not that much. I feel like, I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and weight how much we got today. Ooh. Back to zero. And zero. Okay, that's fantastic. So we only got like 450 grams in total. And I don't know if like that is, I don't know if that's considered to be like super successful, because this is just gonna be food for like a couple of meals only. So I usually like to say that they're kind of successful if I manage to eat a lot from them when they're fresh, and if I can preserve as well. My chimes over here are very noisy, so I'm trying not to make too much noise, in addition to the beautiful fauna that you can probably hear in the background. But yeah, with broad beans, we're kind of, we used to grow them in the allotment garden, and I remember spending countless hours squishing the little aphids out of them. So I'm not like the biggest fan of broad beans, even though they're delicious to eat. So what we're gonna do this year is we're gonna keep these fresh for eating. We're leaving some in one of the beds for to save as seeds. So I'm gonna include a little bit of footage to show you what they look like right now, and I'm gonna include another bit of footage later in a couple of weeks to show you when they're gonna be ready to harvest to keep as seeds for the future. But what we're gonna do is, because we're kind of limited in terms of space in the potager here, we are gonna grow. Can I release the chimes? No. What we're gonna do is that we are actually going to grow them on the other side next year. So I need to make to keep track of when things need to go in the ground in order to have successful harvest next year. So there's gonna be a lot of things happening in the orchard next year for sure, like a lot of potatoes for sure, if it works. And I'm gonna experiment with broad beans as well. I thought that I would have time to harvest the sweet peas as well, but it's kind of getting late already, so I'm probably going to save that for tomorrow instead. I have just finished harvesting the sweet peas, and this is how much we have this year. I'm gonna have to go ahead and weigh everything. Obviously, I'm gonna have to remove the outside part of them, so that's not gonna be like the actual weight of what we're gonna consume. But it's kind of interesting to see how much in total we got. I'm I'm gonna do the same thing I did last year. The ones that are kind of on the dry side, I'm gonna go into my little dehydrator hanger that I have in the garage. So we're gonna be able to save seeds for next year. And honestly, I thought that I would be able to transform a lot of them, but once you remove the outer part, there's not much left, and they're so delicious that they're not gonna last for very long in the fridge. We started eating the broke beans already, and yeah, there's not much left either because you have to peel the first layer as well before consuming. So. But I'm quite pleased with how much we have, and they grew so well. It's I think, a great crop for beginner gardeners because they don't require much at all. Some watering, kind of planting them at the right time, and they're nitrogen fixers, so they don't really need like anything else than like an okay soil. I also got some beets, and same thing. I thought that I would be able to harvest a lot today, but some are still on the smaller side. So we're just gonna consume that, I think, and I'm not gonna do any canning because I kind of don't want to sterilize a billion jars and waste time preserving things that are just gonna be eaten right away. So I'm gonna go ahead and wait all of that and see if I can do some food processing of any sort. We shall see, or maybe just simply cook all of that. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next week in another video.